If you're looking for a MagSafe power bank to charge your phone without having a cable dangling down, there are now thankfully lots of options to choose from, but unfortunately most are rebranded products from China with exaggerated misleading specs and fake reviews. So I decided to buy 4 of the most popular or interesting ones and put them head to head in every test that matters. So we'll be going over all of that, including how fast they will charge and how much you'll actually get from each one. And at the end, I will tell you which one you should buy. Now, I really wanted to include Anker's PowerCore Magnetic Power Bank, but unfortunately, they keep pushing back the shipping date, so I couldn't include it. But based on info that I gathered from reviews, compared to these ones, I wouldn't buy the Anker anyway, and I'll explain why. I have links to all of these down in the video description, and since all but the HyperPower can be purchased under a variety of names, I will be making up my own names so you guys can easily follow along and know which one is which in these tests. Let's start out with Big Gray at $35. This is the only one that advertises 10,000 milliamp hours of capacity, even though it's almost the same as the previous 5,000 milliamp hour that I showed off, so we'll see how much it actually has. This thing feels super solid in the hand and has a raised rubber pad and alignment magnet, which provides a fairly strong connection that doesn't easily twist. We have a power button to turn on the charging and a set of LED lights to show battery life and a USB-C port for two-way charging, just like each power bank that I tested. With that, Big Gray is the only one that also has a USB Type-A port, which can be handy if you only have an older USB cable to use, and it can actually power 3 devices at once. And not only that, you can also use it to replace a wireless charger, since it can charge your phone and itself at the same time, and then you can just take it with you as you need, which 3 of these 4 power banks can actually do. The next one I named Kickstand, since it's the only one with a kickstand, so you can prop it up while it's attached and charging your phone. It's $34 and it is thinner than Big Gray, but also taller, so it ends up having the biggest footprint overall. And since it sits flush with your phone, it's the only one that won't properly work with the 12 mini. Kickstand has a second trick that no other magnetic power bank has, and that is a lightning port in addition to USB Type-C, which can be used to charge the power bank, but not your phone. It's rated at 5,000 milliamp hours rating, just like the next one, the HyperPower, and also the Anker. It also has by far the strongest magnet, which is almost too strong, but unfortunately, since the bottom uses a really slick plastic material, it constantly twists on the body, which is super annoying to me since it never really sits straight. And with the iPhone 12, it rubs against the camera bump, causing plastic to literally be shaved off. The whole thing feels cheap, and the kickstand is flimsy, so it seems like it won't last very long and it will end up breaking off. The next one is the only one that doesn't just get rebranded and sold, the HyperPower. It's $40 and definitely seems like a brand name product based on the design and the quality plastic that is used. It is on the smaller side, but it's definitely thick, and the bottom is a softer plastic, but not rubbery. HyperPower does have an alignment magnet, but it's not very strong, so it's easy to twist the power bank, and in general, this one has the weakest magnet overall, so sometimes you drop it in your pocket and it will actually detach from your phone and stop charging, which the other ones don't do. And our last one is Blue Mini, which is by far the smallest one, being just as thin as Kickstand, but with a tiny footprint, which works perfectly for the iPhone 12 mini. Not only that, but it's the cheapest one as well at only $27, and the only one with a fully, really grippy rubber back, so it is very resistant to twisting. And even though it's by far the smallest one out of the group, its magnet is actually the second strongest, which was surprising. Now, I was also surprised about the battery rating, which is just slightly less than the previous two at 4,200 milliamp hours, but we'll see if it's actually that high. And it's also the only one that can't pass through wireless charging. Along with that, the Blue Mini accepts the most actual power when charging at 16.7 watts, and because the battery is the smallest, it will charge very quickly. Big Gray and Kickstand both accept 16.4 watts, so just slightly less, but of course Kickstand can also accept power through the lightning port, which maxes out at 9.7 real-world watts, so don't use that if you want to charge it fast. The slowest MagSafe MagSafe Power Bank is the only one with the brand name Hyper at 10 real-world watts through USB Type-C, so it will take the longest to charge up. And with that, if you want to charge an iPhone from the USB Type-C port, it is also the slowest at only 8 watts for some reason. The rest of the power banks output 10.4 watts to an iPhone, and the only one with the USB Type-A port can pass through 4.8 watts that way. Now, one thing that really gets to me is a ton of these brands advertise up to 15 watts of wireless charging through MagSafe, when that's simply not true because an iPhone can only accept 7.5 watts if you're not using the official MagSafe charger, so I decided to test what they actually get through its magnetic coils. Let's start out with the most disappointing one, the Blue Mini. Even though it accepts the most power through USB Type-C for charging, it only outputs about 3.5 watts after efficiency loss, which means it's most likely based on 5 watts for wireless charging, and that's also what Anker's is rated. Big Ray showed 6 watts, which is better, and Hyper and Kickstand showed 7 watts, which is likely based on 7.5 watt Qi charging. Now, of course, wattage can vary as you go on, so let's take a look at what is actually our charging time and how much each phone gets charged with these power banks. For all of my testing, I use an iPhone 12, which is by far the most popular new iPhone, but the 12 Pro should charge exactly the same since it has the same battery, and I'll also comment on the 12 Mini and 12 Pro Max in just a bit. I made sure that the iPhone 12 was completely drained and attached each battery to see how long they would take to turn on your phone, which is always such a frustrating wait. Big Ray took 4 minutes and 20 seconds to start the phone. Kickstand took a much longer 6 minutes. Hyper was the quickest at only 3 minutes and 15 seconds, and Blue Mini took 5 minutes and 30 seconds. After 15 minutes, Blue Mini only hit 6% charge, which was disappointing after 15 minutes of waiting. Big Ray managed 9%, which is right in line with my desktop Qi chargers, and surprisingly, Hyper and Kickstand charged at double Blue Mini's rate at 12% after 15 minutes. At the 30-minute mark, all chargers about doubled their charge rate, with the Blue Mini hitting 13%, which the other two pretty much hit in the first 15. Let's skip 45 minutes and jump right to the 1 hour mark. Hyper and Kickstand both reached the same 42%, which isn't impressive, but it's still faster than my desktop Qi chargers, which reached the same speed at Big Ray at 35%, and Blue Mini is slightly behind at 28%. And jumping to the 1.5 hour mark, which is where wired fast charging would have fully charged the iPhone 12, our two faster chargers hit 60%, Big Ray hit 53%, and Blue Mini a sad 42%. And after 2 to 2.5 hours, some chargers started to drastically slow down, while others like the Blue Mini and Hyper completely ran out of power. Blue Mini ended up only charging the iPhone 12 to 68%, whereas Hyper reached 85% in the same time. Kickstand slowed but kept going for another half hour, where it died after reaching 95%, and Big Ray kind of stalled between 2.5 to 3 hours, staying at around 80%, even though optimized charging was turned off, and then it sped up slightly and kept going until the 4 hour mark, where it fully charged our iPhone 12, being the only one to hit 100%. But not only that, it was still showing charge, so I drained my iPhone 12 for the 5th time, and believe it or not, it ended up charging it another 50%, where the others couldn't even do 100% once. Now the question is, does it actually have 10,000 milliamp hours of capacity like the listing? Well, I'm not so sure, especially since the listing also shows somewhere around 7,000 milliamp hours as a side note at the bottom. So I went ahead and I took the percentage of charge from each power bank, and I divided that based on the milliamp hours that the iPhone 12's battery is listed at, and that gave me a real world charge of 4,200 milliamp hours once we account for loss due to heat and other factors. Kickstand provided 2,675 and Hyper 2,400, and Blue Mini only 1,915 milliamp hours, meaning it wouldn't even fully charge an iPhone 12 mini. So based on the test results, you would think that Big Ray is probably the one to buy, since it can actually charge your phone all the way. It has pass-through charging and multiple outputs as well, and has a decent magnetic connection, and you may be right, but for me, it is my number 2 choice. That is because it is definitely by far the heaviest and chunkiest one, and it is also fairly slow. So if you're planning to charge your phone while using it, it's not going to be very comfortable for long, and after a while, your hand is just going to get tired and heavy. And so personally, I'm not really a fan of that since it's just way too heavy to use this way. And even though the Blue Mini has the least amount of features and it's by far the slowest, it is actually my favorite because of how small it is and how lightweight it is. I can easily keep it on my phone while using it as it doesn't add much bulk and it doesn't slip off, so I use it to keep my battery from draining and it slowly tops it off as well. Now personally, I'm not a fan of the other two even though they charge fast because they come off way too easily and they're not very comfortable while using it. And with that, they also don't give you a full charge, and the same thing goes for Anker's battery bank based on all the reviews that I read. But you guys let me know what you think down below in the comments section. Which charger would fit your personal needs better and why? I will have all of them linked down below in the description for you guys to check out the prices at the time that you're watching the video. And if you guys enjoyed it, go ahead and click that circle above to subscribe and check out one of the other great videos right over there. This has been Max, and I'll see you in the next video.